In many cities, mobility infrastructure has historically been designed with cars in mind rather than pedestrians, cyclists, or public transport users. What needs to be done to optimize mobility infrastructure for public transportation and cyclists?
Back in the 50s, it's a fact that very few of the world's towns and cities resisted to the urge to head up their infrastructure to make room for cars, in most cases to the detriment of pedestrians, cyclists, of the user of public transport. But public space is changing. Today, we are reversing that trend. Squares that were being used as car parks and streets that felt like urban racetracks are being handed back to active users. Lanes are now being reserved for buses, trams, or bicycles. Towns and cities turning their back on a model design around the car witness that emergence of better quality, less air pollution, less noise, less stress, fewer traffic jams, less insecurity too. At the end of the day, it comes down to common sense. Have a look at the diagram behind me. What do we see? If we come up with a better distribution of space between the different modes of travel, if we give priority to collective means of transport, such as public transport, and active means of transport, such as cycling or walking, we can triple the number of people on the move within the same space. You can even regreen the towns and cities, which is an excellent way to reduce the effect of heat in the summer and to promote biodiversity. A better distribution of space is the solution that is gradually being implemented in many towns and cities. The process has been set in motion, as is it the case in Brussels. There is still a long way to go, and there is resistance to change, but deep down, I'm confident. Fewer cars in the urban areas means a town or city that can breathe again. It's good for our lungs, good for traders, good for the locals, good for social interactivity, and good for the safety of all.
And how can we shift people's habits and preferences away from diesel or petrol cars towards more sustainable models of transportation?
The most obvious solution starts by promoting local network, a local job, a local school, a local social life, and more circular economy. Thus, avoiding needless travels and time wasting, along with the economic and environmental costs that come with them. But it's not always possible. That is why it is also necessary to develop and strengthen alternatives to driving and flying. This is what I'm doing here in Belgium as Minister of Mobility, but also hand in hand with my European colleagues. This call for cultural change. You surely know that cars are stationary for 95% of their service life. We tend to think that we have to own our own car if we wish to move around freely. This is far from being true. Shared car, for example, can provide a real answer alongside the train, and one that does away with the need to own your own car. It is less expensive, and it is at least as practical as a personal car. The system was first developed in large urban centers and is now beginning to appear in smaller towns. It's a real car revolution. And if those cars are electric, then all the better, as long as they are smaller and less expensive, of course, but also as long as their battery is recycled. The idea is not to deplete our planet's resource and exploit its poorest inhabitants in order to extract precious metals from the ground. The whole point is not to become as dependent on precious metals tomorrow as we are on fossil fuels today.
What role do you see electric vehicles play in the future of mobility, and what can be done to promote them?
A car in a traffic jam is still a car. It makes no difference whether it's electric, autonomous, or diesel. We need to reduce CO2 emissions from transport. There is no doubt about that. This can only be done by cutting down on unnecessary travels and paving the way for active and collective mobility. With regards to passenger cars, while electric vehicles are not the overall solution to mobility challenges, they are clearly a part of the solution. Today's cars seem to be getting steadily bigger, heavier, more powerful, and more expensive. We are not going down the right path. For me, the solution comes first and foremost from efficient and accessible public transport, with the train as the backbone of our mobility, complementary to other means of transport for the first and the last mile. As for cars, the vehicle of the future needs to be smaller, lighter, and shared.
And are there other things in the area of mobility that you consider important to implement?
A lot has been talked about cars, and yet we must consider mobility as a whole, revolving around the train. In Belgium, I'm working to increase the stream and thus the frequency of trains. More trains earlier and later in the evening, upgraded rolling stocks, and a properly maintained network. The train should be considered as a partner of regional and local public transport, as well as walking, cycling, and shared car systems. All this has a cost, but a necessary cost if we wish to enjoy the real freedom this kind of mobility can bring. It must be seen above all else as an investment that creates not only jobs and useful economic activities, but one that saves this planet that is on loan to us before we pass it on to our children.